The Stoic Atrium, Part 1, The Foundation. Welcome to the Stoic Atrium, a space where ancient wisdom meets the restless rhythms of modern life. You have stepped out of the noise of the external world and into a sanctuary of thought. We are going to explore the bedrock of Stoicism, a philosophy born over 2,000 years ago in the bustling marketplaces of Athens and the marble halls of Rome, yet one that remains more relevant today than ever before. We begin where all Stoic teaching begins, with the radical act of understanding what is truly within our power and what lies forever beyond it. Imagine standing in a garden divided by a single, narrow path. On the left side, grow things you can tend, water, and shape with your own hands. You can prune the hedges, plant the seeds, and pull the weeds. On the right side, wild and vast, stretches a terrain you cannot influence. Here, the weather systems form, distant mountains tower, and the wind blows where it listeth. The Stoics understood a fundamental truth that we often forget. Peace does not come from trying to bridge the gap and control both sides. True tranquility is found in knowing exactly where that path lies and realizing which side of the garden is yours to cultivate. Epictetus, a man born into the chains of slavery who rose to become one of history's most influential teachers, distilled this into a single, life-altering principle. He called it the Dichotomy of Control, and it is the foundation upon which all Stoic practice rests. He put it simply, some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are our opinions, our motivations, our desires, and our aversions. In short, whatever is our own doing. Not within our power are our bodies, our possessions, our reputation, and our position in the world. Notice what he places within your power. Not outcomes, but intentions. Not results, but efforts. Not what happens to you, but how you choose to respond. Let's bring this ancient logic into the friction of your life right now. Picture yourself stuck in gridlock traffic. You have somewhere important to be, perhaps the most important meeting of your year. The minutes tick by. Brake lights stretch ahead like a river of red. Your physical body reacts. Your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, and you grip the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity. Ask yourself, what, in this moment, is within your control? You cannot control the traffic. You cannot control the accident miles ahead, the construction, or the choices of hundreds of other drivers. You cannot control time itself. You cannot control whether you arrive late. But look closer at the other side of the path, your side. You can control your breathing. You can control the narrative you are telling yourself about this delay. You can choose to listen to music, a podcast, or silence. You can choose to call ahead and explain the situation calmly. You can control your judgment about whether this moment is a catastrophe or simply a temporary inconvenience. The Stoics would say you are suffering not because you are stuck in traffic, but because you are fighting reality. You are spending your precious life force trying to control what cannot be controlled, while neglecting what can be, your inner state, your response, and your perspective. Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, wrote in his personal journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Most of our daily exhaustion comes from this confusion, from trying to reach across the path and rearrange the wild terrain. We worry about whether people will like us. We stress about the weather during our vacation. We lose sleep over tomorrow's presentation, replaying it endlessly in our minds. The Stoic approach does not mean we do not prepare. Marcus Aurelius prepared for massive battles. Epictetus prepared his lectures for his students. Preparation is within our control. But once you have done what you can do, letting go is not giving up. It is wisdom. It is the recognition that the result is no longer your responsibility. Think of an archer. She can control her stance, her grip, her aim, the tension in the bowstring, and the exact moment of release. All of this is her domain. But once the arrow leaves her fingers, it enters the realm of wind, gravity, and chance. The archer's peace comes from perfecting what she can control and releasing attachment to what she cannot. She aims true, releases fully, and accepts the outcome. How much of your daily exhaustion comes from trying to hit the target rather than focusing on your aim? We suffer when we believe we are the masters of the wind. So what exactly lies within our control? The Stoics identified 4 specific faculties: judgment, desire, aversion, and impulse. Judgment is how we interpret events. 2 people experience the same rainstorm. One sees their day ruined. Another sees needed water for the earth and a chance to read indoors. Same event, different judgments. Your judgment is yours to shape. Desire is what we reach toward. The Stoics taught that we should desire only what is within our power to obtain. If you desire virtue, to respond well, and to act with integrity, these are always available to you. When we confuse what is within our control with what is not, we suffer predictably. We become anxious, constantly monitoring things we cannot influence. We become angry, raging at a reality that does not bend to our will. We become depressed, feeling helpless because we're looking at the wrong map. We become exhausted, pouring energy into battles that cannot be won. A woman lies awake at 2 in the morning replaying a conversation from years ago, thinking of better words she should have said. But the conversation is over. It is outside her control now. What is within her control? What she will say next time. How she will prepare her heart. What she is learning from the memory. When you truly understand what is and isn't within your power, something remarkable happens. You stop fighting reality and you start working with it. You're stuck in traffic and you think, this is where I am. I can breathe. I can be present. You do not get the promotion and you ask, what can I learn from this? Someone criticizes you unfairly and you pause to realize, I cannot control their opinion, but I can control whether I let their words enter my soul. Every moment, you stand at the junction of 2 territories. One is vast and beyond your influence, filled with the noise of the world, the opinions of others, and the march of time. The other is small, quiet, and completely yours. Most people spend their entire lives trying to conquer the vast territory, only to end up tired, bitter, and defeated. The Stoic tends her inner territory with obsessive care. She realizes that a small garden, perfectly tended, is worth more than an empire in total disarray. This is where strength begins. This is where peace is found, not in controlling the world, but in governing yourself. The question is, where will you place your energy? Will you spend it on the wind, or will you spend it on the bow? As you move back into the rhythms of your day, carry this boundary with you. When frustration rises, draw that line in the sand. Ask yourself which side of the path this problem belongs to. If it is outside your control, let go with a breath. If it is within your power, attend to it with all your heart. This is the foundation. Thank you for spending this time in the atrium. We return now to our exploration of Stoic wisdom. You understand now that some things are within your power and many things are not. But intellectual understanding is only the beginning. The real work is building what Marcus Aurelius called the inner citadel, a fortress of the mind that remains standing regardless of the storms outside. In this part of our journey, we will explore how to meet adversity without being broken by it, and how to cultivate a strength that no external circumstance can reach. Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, wrote in his private journal, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Despite commanding armies and managing an empire, he understood that his true refuge was not a palace, but the space within his own mind. The inner citadel is not a place you escape to. It is a place you build through daily discipline. It is the observer within you that watches emotions rise and fall without being swept away. This citadel is walled with principles and examined thoughts. When adversity comes, these walls hold firm. The Stoics did not teach suppression or numbness. They taught that emotions arise from our judgments about events. Something happens, an insult in a meeting, for example, and before you feel anger, your mind makes a lightning-fast judgment. This is unfair. I have been wronged. It is this interpretation, not the words themselves, that generates the emotion. Epictetus taught, people are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. An insult is just sounds in the air. Your judgment that it diminishes you is what disturbs you. This is empowering because, while you cannot control the insult, you can reshape the judgment. Between stimulus and response, the Stoics practiced inserting a pause. In that pause lives your freedom. When someone cuts you off in traffic before you react, you pause and ask, what judgment am I making? You can choose a different story. Perhaps they are in an emergency or simply a flawed human. The resulting emotion will be entirely different. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." We often suffer over things that haven't happened or replay old pain. Stoicism brings us back to what is, rather than what we fear. Anger, which Seneca called the most hideous of emotions, clouds judgment and hands control of our peace to others. The Stoic approach begins with prevention by setting expectations with reality. If you expect people to be meddling or ungrateful, you aren't surprised when they are, and anger finds no fuel. The second step is delay. The greatest remedy for anger is delay, Seneca noted. If you wait for the heat to pass, you regain access to your wisdom. We also practice negative visualization, occasionally imagining losing what we have. This isn't morbid, it is preparation. If you remind yourself that your health is fragile or your loved ones are mortal, you aren't ambushed when difficulty arrives. Paradoxically, this deepens your appreciation for the present. A man who contemplates that his partner won't be here forever looks at her with more tenderness today. A core principle is, the obstacle is the way. Marcus Aurelius wrote that what stands in the way becomes the way. Every setback is an opportunity to practice virtue, patience, courage, or creativity. Just as a musician needs difficult pieces to develop skill, we need obstacles to develop character. Losing a job is an opportunity to discover resilience. The Stoics didn't claim obstacles are good, but that how you meet them can make you good. Admiral James Stockdale, a prisoner of war for 7 years, survived by relying on Epictetus. He observed that false optimists often broke when reality failed their hopes. Stockdale accepted the brutal facts while maintaining faith that he would prevail. This is the Stoic balance. Clear-eyed acceptance of reality paired with unshakable inner resolve. Think of emotions as information, not commands. Fear signals possible danger. Anger signals perceived injustice. These are data points, not orders. You can acknowledge a craving or a fear without letting it run your life. In the space between the feeling and the action, you remain sovereign. You decide what enters the citadel and what is not. Marcus Aurelius used the discipline of perception, seeing things as they are, stripped of emotional charge. He described luxury food simply as the corpse of a fish. You could do this too. If you're nervous about public speaking, strip away the judgment. You're merely standing in a room, making sounds with your mouth. The stories of humiliation are additions you have the power to remove. Finally, the Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort. By occasionally eating simple food or enduring the cold, you remind yourself, I can handle difficulty. Comfort makes us fragile. Voluntary challenge builds the foundation of proven strength you will need when real hardship comes. Deep within you is a space nothing external can touch. Your capacity for wisdom and choice. Your body and reputation are in the outer courts that can be damaged. But the inner citadel stands firm. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have the power to revoke the pain of external things by changing your estimate of them. Build your fortress well, and you will look out at the chaos with steady eyes and a quiet heart. The Stoic Atrium, Part 3, Memento Mori and Amor Fati. We have built our foundation in understanding control and fortified our inner citadel against the storms of emotion. Now we turn to something more fundamental, our relationship with time, mortality, and the nature of fate. The Stoics used 2 practices to transform how we experience existence. Memento Mori, remember you must die, and Amor Fati, the love of fate. These may sound morbid, but they are invitations to fully inhabit your life, to waste no moment, and to embrace reality with profound acceptance. In ancient Rome, when a victorious general paraded through the streets in glory, a slave would stand behind him in the chariot and whisper, Memento mori. Remember you must die. This wasn't cruelty, it was wisdom. At the moment you believe you are invincible, you need the reminder most. We live as if we have infinite time. We put off conversations, delay pursuing what matters until conditions are perfect, and waste hours on trivialities. We treat death as a distant abstraction that happens to other people. Marcus Aurelius knew better. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Not in 5 years, not when you're old. Right now, this moment might be your last." This isn't meant to terrify you. It is meant to awaken you to the preciousness of time. Seneca observed that life is not short, but that we make it so by wasting it. We squander years on things that don't matter and then complain we lack time. He wrote, "Life is long enough for the highest achievements if it were all well invested." Think about yesterday. Where did your time go? How much was spent on things you truly value? And how much was lost to mindless scrolling or useless worrying? Time is the only non-renewable resource. Money can be earned back, and reputation can be rebuilt, but time, once spent, is gone forever. Seneca asks, if someone owned a property they knew would soon be taken away, would you see them as rich? Yet your life is exactly such a property. Why do you treat it as if you were wealthy with time? Marcus Aurelius reflected at the end of each day as if he might not wake tomorrow. He would ask, did I live well? If this were my last day, would I be at peace? If you knew you had only today left, what would suddenly matter? The things that would love, gratitude, presence are available now. The only reason we don't prioritize them is the illusion of unlimited tomorrows. Memento mori cuts through that illusion. People delay telling someone they love them until there is no time left. They stay in soul-draining situations thinking they will change eventually. The Stoics say, there is only now. The Stoics view death as a teacher. It teaches you to stop procrastinating and that clinging is futile. Epictetus taught, keep death daily before your eyes, and you will never have an abject thought. When you remember that life is finite, petty grievances lose their grip. A long-held grudge becomes absurd. Appreciation deepens because you realize you and your loved ones won't always be here. Courage increases because embarrassment and failure are nothing compared to the ultimate fate we all share. Presence becomes possible because you finally grasp that this moment is all you have. Walk through a cemetery and read the dates. Notice how many lives were shorter than yours. Every person there had plans and dreams. They thought tomorrow was guaranteed. You're still here. You still have time. What will you do with it? Seneca wrote, the one who puts the finishing touches on their life each day is never short of time. Now we turn to Amor Fati, the love of fate. If Memento Mori teaches us to embrace the preciousness of time, Amor Fati teaches us to embrace everything that happens. Is the shift from I have to deal with this to this is exactly what I need. It is not just accepting what happens, but loving it. Most people spend their lives wishing things were different, wishing for better weather, a better boss, or a different past. This is a recipe for misery. It is fighting against the entire universe. The Stoics believe that everything that happens is part of a larger whole. Whether you call it nature, God, or the logos, they saw a rational order to the world. Therefore, resisting what happens is like a single thread complaining about the tapestry it belongs to. Epictetus said, do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well. This is the ultimate power. If you decide to love whatever happens, you can never be defeated. Amor Fati doesn't mean you become passive. You still act, still work, and still strive for justice. But once the outcome is decided, you embrace it. If you succeed, you love it. If you fail, you love the lesson and the chance to try again. You treat every event as fuel for your growth. Like a fire that consumes everything thrown into it to grow brighter, the Stoic uses every circumstance, even the painful ones, to strengthen their character. When a difficulty arises, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, how can I use this? If you lose your money, you love the opportunity to practice simplicity. If you are betrayed, you love the chance to practice forgiveness and self-reliance. This is the ultimate alchemy, turning leaden circumstances into golden character. Friedrich Nietzsche, though not a Stoic, captured this perfectly. My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Living with Amor Fati means you stop being a victim. You stop waiting for the world to change so you can be happy. You realize that the present moment is a gift exactly as it is. You accept the wild side of the garden entirely, trusting that even the storms serve a purpose. This brings a profound sense of relief. You no longer have to carry the burden of needing the world to go your way. You are free. As we conclude this part of our journey, hold these two practices together. Memento Mori reminds you that your time is limited, urging you to live with urgency and focus. Amor Fati reminds you that the world is as it should be, urging you to live with acceptance and joy. Together, they create a life that is both deeply engaged and perfectly peaceful. You are a mortal being in a changing world, but you are a sovereign being in your own mind. Use your time well, love your fate, and find the stillness that exists at the heart of all things. The Stoic Atrium, Part 4, the Cosmopolis, the Architecture of Connection. We have spent our journey thus far looking inward. We have explored the foundation of the dichotomy of control, the construction of the inner citadel, and the profound acceptance of time and fate. But a fortress with no gate is a tomb. The Stoics were not hermits. They were philosophers of the marketplace, the courtroom, and the battlefield. They believed that while our character is developed in solitude, it is tested and expressed in society. We turn now to the concept of the cosmopolis, the universal city. To the Stoic, you are not merely a citizen of a specific nation or a member of a specific family. You are a limb of a vast, living organism that encompasses all of humanity. This is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of Stoicism. It is not a philosophy of I don't care, but a philosophy of I care so much for the right things that I am no longer paralyzed by the wrong ones. The circles of hierarchals. To understand your place in the world, we must look at the circles of concern, a mental model provided by the Stoic hierarchals. Imagine yourself standing at the center of a series of ripples in a pond. The first circle, at the very center, is your own mind, your faculty of choice. The second circle is your immediate family. The third contains your extended family and friends. The fourth contains your neighbors and fellow citizens. The fifth and final circle encompasses the entire human race. Most people treat these circles as barriers. They believe their concerns should drop off sharply as they move outward. They feel a deep duty to their child, a moderate duty to a neighbor, and no duty at all to a stranger on the other side of the planet. The Stoic practice, however, is the act of oikeiosis, the process of making things one's own. Hierarchals suggested that we should consciously labor to pull these circles inward. We should strive to treat our cousins as if they were our siblings, our neighbors as if they were our kin, and the stranger as if they were a fellow countryman. Why? Because we all share the same spark of reason. Whether a person is a king or a beggar, they possess the same fundamental human equipment, the ability to think, to suffer, to hope, and to choose. When you see a stranger, you are seeing a version of yourself shaped by different circumstances. The bee and the hive. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the emperor of Rome, constantly checked his ego by remembering his place in this beehive. He wrote, "What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee." This is a radical shift in perspective. Most of us ask, how will this benefit me? The Stoic asks, how does this serve the whole? This isn't self-sacrifice for the sake of suffering. It is the realization that your own flourishing is tied to the flourishing of the community. If you live in a society that is unjust, cruel, and chaotic, your inner citadel will be under constant siege. Therefore, working for justice and order is not just a nice thing to do. It is a rational requirement for a good life. The Stoic does not help others because they want to feel like a good person or because they seek a reward in the afterlife. They help others because it is their nature. Just as a vine is meant to produce grapes and a dog is meant to guard, a human being is meant to be social and cooperative. To act against the common good is to act against your own nature. It is to become a tumor on the universe, as Marcus Aurelius harshly put it, dealing with difficult people. The greatest obstacle to living in the cosmopolis is, of course, other people. It is easy to love humanity in the abstract. It is very difficult to love the coworker who takes credit for your work or the neighbor who plays loud music at midnight. Stoicism offers a specific psychological toolkit for this. It begins with the morning prep. Before your feet hit the floor, you acknowledge that you will encounter meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, and dishonest people. You don't do this to be a misanthrope. You do it so that when you do encounter them, the surprise factor is gone. Surprise is the fuel of anger. If you expect everyone to be perfectly rational and kind, you will spend your day in a state of constant shock and resentment. When someone is rude to you, remember the Stoic principle of the handle. Every situation has two handles. One handle is the wrong that was done to you. If you pick it up by this handle, you will be filled with indignation. The other handle is the fact that this person is your kinsman, a fellow human who is currently suffering from a sickness of the mind. The Stoics believe that no one does wrong willingly. This sounds counterintuitive. Surely, the person who steals or lies knows they're doing wrong. The Stoic would say, they know they're breaking a rule, but they believe that in this specific instance, the wrong act is good for them. They're mistaken about what good is. They think money, power, or revenge is the good, when in fact, virtue is the only good. Therefore, they're like a person who is colorblind or has poor eyesight. You wouldn't be angry with a blind man for bumping into you. Why be angry with a morally blind man for acting according to his clouded vision? This realization doesn't mean you let them walk all over you. You still protect yourself. You still seek justice, but you do it without the corrosive poison of hatred. You act like a doctor treating a patient who is delirious and shouting insults. The doctor doesn't take the insults personally. They focus on the cure. The Stoic Atrium, Part 5, The Stoic in Action. We have journeyed through the foundations of Stoicism, understanding control, the inner citadel, and mortality. Now we arrive at the heart of the practice, virtue in action. Philosophy is not merely thought, it is lived. We will explore how to translate ancient wisdom into daily choices and integrity. The Stoics organized ethics around 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These are practical capacities. Wisdom is knowing how to respond skillfully. Courage is acting despite fear. Justice is treating others fairly, as your thriving is tied to your community. Temperance is self-discipline and balance. Marcus Aurelius wrote that if you ever find anything better than these virtues, it must be extraordinary. He found nothing better. Practice daily, they are enough. A Stoic begins the day by preparing the mind. Aurelius reminded himself he would meet meddling and arrogant people. He wasn't being pessimistic, he was being realistic. He knew wrongdoers act out of ignorance. Expect difficulty, but commit to your own virtue regardless. Set an intention for one specific virtue today. In a heated disagreement, wisdom asks, what is in my control? Courage asks, can I remain calm? Justice asks, am I listening genuinely? Temperance asks, can I pause before speaking? Epictetus taught that if someone speaks badly of you, reply that they clearly don't know your other faults. Humility deflates conflict. At work, don't ask if you'll get caught. Ask if this is who you want to be. Character is built in the choices no one sees. Follow a compass that points to virtue, even when the path is steep. Practice daily self-examination. Each evening, ask, what bad habit did I cure? What vice did I resist? In what way am I better? This honest assessment transforms you into someone intentional. In relationships, remember you cannot control others, only how you treat them. Love fully, but without clinging. When adversity strikes, like losing a job, see it as an opportunity for character. Wisdom learns, courage acts, and temperance resists panic. As Seneca wrote, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Stoicism concerns the common good. What benefits the hive benefits the bee. Virtue is excellence in service to something larger than yourself. In our modern world, insert a pause before reacting to a digital distraction. Practice voluntary discomfort to build resilience. Appreciation is the antidote to the suffering caused by endless wanting. In your career, do excellent work because it is part of virtue, not for praise. Focus on effort rather than outcomes like recognition. Your inner citadel remains unmoved by office politics. It is not the future that weighs upon you, but the present moment. To die well, you must live well. The Stoic life is built in ordinary moments. Virtue is available until your last breath. Aurelius wrote that soon you will be forgotten. This is liberation. All that matters is who you are right now. Philosophy is a practice, not a destination. You will fail, but the Stoic expects growth, not perfection. Start small with one daily practice. The Stoic atrium is a refuge you carry within. Live as if every act were your last. Be the best version of yourself this moment allows. Welcome to the Stoic way. Strict with self, tolerant of others. A hallmark of a maturing Stoic is a shift in where they apply their standards. Beginners are often Stoic police, pointing out the flaws in everyone else's logic and judging them for their lack of emotional control. The advanced Stoic is a sage to themselves and a neighbor to others. You should hold yourself to the highest possible standard of integrity, discipline, and courage. But for everyone else, you offer the cynic's cloak of tolerance. Cato the Younger, one of the most famously disciplined Stoics, was known for his incredible self-restraint. Yet, when he was in public, he was famously patient with the failings of his fellow citizens. He knew that his inner citadel was the only place he had jurisdiction. You cannot force someone else to be a philosopher. You can only be a living example of what a philosopher looks like. If your stoicism makes you a judgmental, cold, or unlikable person, you are doing it wrong. Stoicism is meant to make you a better friend, a more reliable partner, and a more engaged citizen. The role play of life. Epictetus often used the metaphor of a play. You did not choose the role you were given. You didn't choose your parents, your birthplace, your physical abilities, or the era you were born into. Some are cast as kings, others as beggars. Some as the hero, others as the person who dies in the first act. Your job is not to complain about the role you were cast in. Your job is to play the role well. If you're a parent, be the most present, patient, and wise parent you can be. If you're a waiter, serve with dignity and care. If you're a leader, lead with justice and humility. The goodness of your life is not measured by the size of the role, but by the quality of the performance. A short scene played perfectly is superior to a leading role played with arrogance and sloth. This takes the pressure off getting ahead and puts the focus on acting well right now. Tranquility as social service. Finally, we must understand that our own tranquility is a gift to society. We live in an economy of outrage. Our digital world is designed to keep us in a state of constant fear, anger, and division. When you're outraged, you are easy to manipulate. When you are fearful, you're easy to sell to. The Stoic who remains calm in a crisis is a public utility. In a room full of people who are panicking, the person with a steady hand and a clear head is the only one who can actually help. Your inner citadel is not a place of escape. It is a laboratory where you manufacture the peace that the world so desperately needs. By refusing to join the mob, by refusing to hate those who disagree with you, and by refusing to be paralyzed by events you cannot control, you become a city on a hill. You show others that it is possible to be aware of the world's problems without being destroyed by them. Closing, the universal duty. As we close the Stoic Atrium series, remember that the goal of this philosophy is not to become a statue. It is to become a fully realized human being. You have the foundation, the knowledge of what is yours. You have the citadel, the strength of your judgment. You have the perspective, the acceptance of time and fate. And now, you have the duty to serve the cosmopolis. The rain has stopped, and the city is waking up. The noise is returning, but you're going back out into that noise with something different. You're going back with a quiet center. You are going back with the archer's intention, to aim true, regardless of the wind. Be the bee that serves the hive. Be the emerald that shines without needing praise. Be the person who, when the world asks for anger, offers reason, and when the world asks for despair, offers hope. The doors of the atrium are always open. Go now, and live as if every moment were a gift, every person were a brother, and every obstacle were the way. To turn these philosophical concepts into a lived experience, the Stoics utilized a toolkit of daily disciplines. This summary condenses the 4 parts of our journey into a structured practice you can use to navigate the complexities of modern life. 1. The morning prep, setting the compass. Before the world makes demands of you, claim the first minutes of your day for your mind. The view from above. Imagine looking down at your city, your country, and then the entire planet. Realize how small your problems are in the grand scheme of the cosmos. This isn't to diminish your life, but to give you a healthy perspective. Premeditatio malorum. Premeditation of evils. Briefly visualize the potential challenges of the day. A difficult meeting, a delayed flight, or an ungrateful child. By rehearsing these in your mind, you remove the element of surprise that fuels anger and anxiety. Set your intentions. Don't just list tasks. List the virtues you want to practice. Instead of, I will finish this report, say, I will work with diligence and focus on this report. 2. Midday, the discipline of perception. As you move through the world, use these Stoic filters to process events in real time. The dichotomy of control. When a problem arises, immediately categorize it. If it is outside your control, the weather, the economy, others' opinions, say to yourself, this is nothing to me. Focus your energy entirely on your response. The Stoic pause. Between a stimulus, an insult, a setback, and your response, there is a space. Practice widening that space. Take one deep breath before reacting. Objective description. Strip away the emotional adjectives. Instead of this is a disastrous, career-ending mistake, say, I made an error in the 3rd paragraph of the document. Seeing the thing itself, without the story, keeps you calm. 3. Dealing with others, the social shield. The Stoics were citizens of the cosmopolis, believing we were made for cooperation. The second handle. Every person has 2 handles. If they offend you, don't grab them by the handle of enemy. Grab them by the handle of fellow human. Assume they're acting out of ignorance rather than malice. The emerald metaphor. Remind yourself that your character is like an emerald. It retains its beauty even if no one praises it. Do the right thing because it is right, not for the applause. 4. The evening review. Balancing the books. Before you sleep, follow the practice of Seneca and Marcus Aurelius by reviewing your actions without judgment. The 3 questions. 1. What did I do well today? 2. What did I do wrong? Where did I lose my temper or my focus? 3. What could I do differently tomorrow? Memento mori. Reflect on the fact that you have completed another day of your life. Be grateful for the hours you were given. This closure allows you to go to sleep with a clear conscience, having balanced the books of your life. 5. Crisis mode. The emergency toolkit. When life hits hard, use these 2 power phrases. Amor Fati, love of fate, say yes to reality. Do not waste energy wishing it were different. Embrace the obstacle as the very fuel you need for growth. The obstacle is the way. Ask yourself, what virtue does this specific problem allow me to practice? If you are stuck in a long line, it is a practice in patience. If you are criticized, it is a practice in humility. The Stoic Atrium, Part 5, The Sage and the Circle. We have built the foundation of control, fortified the inner citadel, embraced time and fate, and stepped into action through virtue. Now, we arrive at the final movement of our journey, the pursuit of the sage and the completion of the Stoic circle. In this concluding part, We explore the ideal toward which we strive, the resilience of the human spirit in the face of ultimate challenges, and the art of maintaining a consistent soul in an inconsistent world. The Stoics often spoke of the sage, the hypothetical person who perfectly embodies wisdom, whose judgment is never clouded, and whose peace is never disturbed. The ancients admitted that the sage is as rare as the phoenix, appearing perhaps once in a century. You might wonder why we should aim for a target that is nearly impossible to hit. But the Stoic knows that while we may never reach the destination of perfection, the direction of our travel is everything. The sage is the North Star. You do not expect to touch it, but you use it to navigate through the darkest nights. When you face a difficult decision or a moment of crushing pressure, the practice is to invoke this ideal. Ask yourself, what would the person I admire most do in this moment? What would the sage do? This simple question pulls you out of your narrow, emotional perspective and aligns you with a higher standard of reason. It reminds you that a better version of yourself is always possible. Consistency is the hallmark of the Stoic life. The Greeks called it euroia, or the smooth flow of life. Most people are a collection of different selves. They are one person when they are successful and another when they fail. One person in public and another behind closed doors. They are tossed about by the waves of circumstance. The Stoic strives for a soul that is like a sphere, perfectly balanced and consistent regardless of which way it is turned. To achieve this smooth flow, we must practice the discipline of desire. We have learned to desire only what is in our power, but now we must learn to desire the logos, the rational order of the universe. This means moving beyond mere acceptance of our life to a state where we feel a deep, unshakable harmony with reality. If the universe brings you health, you use it for virtue. If the universe brings you sickness, you use that for virtue, too. This smooth flow comes when your will and the world's reality move in the same direction. We must also address the Stoic concept of duty in its deepest sense. In modern times, duty is often seen as a burden, something we have to do. For the Stoic, duty is a privilege. It is the expression of our social nature. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he should rise from bed, not because he wanted to, but because he had human work to do. This work is the act of contributing to the common good through our specific roles. Whether you're a parent, a worker, or a friend, your duty is to perform that role with the highest degree of excellence. This excellence is what the Greeks called errate. It is not about being better than others, but about fulfilling your own potential in every moment. If you're a carpenter, errate is making the most honest joint possible. If you're a citizen, errate is standing up for justice even when it is unpopular. When you focus on your duty and your errate, you become immune to the anxiety of success or failure. You have already succeeded by acting according to your nature. But what of the soul when the world becomes truly dark? The Stoics were clear-eyed about the reality of human suffering. They knew that there are moments of extreme pain, loss, and tyranny. In these moments, they relied on the inner freedom that no jailer can take away. You may be imprisoned, but your mind can remain free. You may be in pain, but your judgment can remain sound. This is the ultimate victory of the human spirit. Epictetus, who lived much of his life in physical pain due to his time in slavery, taught that the body is merely finely fashioned clay, but the will is unconquerable. When we stop identifying with our external shells and start identifying with our faculty of choice, we become invincible. No one can force you to think something you don't believe. No one can force you to value something you find base. This is the citadel at its most profound level. As we complete the circle of the Stoic atrium, we return to the beginning, but with new eyes. We see that Stoicism is not about becoming cold or unfeeling. It is about becoming so deeply rooted in reality and virtue that our joy becomes independent of the whims of fortune. It is about a love for the world that is so strong it does not require the world to be perfect. Living as a Stoic means walking through life with a sense of cheerful indifference. You are indifferent to the things that don't matter: fame, wealth, and petty slights so that you can be vibrantly, cheerfully engaged with the things that do. Your character, your relationships, and your service to the human family. You realize that you are a small part of a vast, beautiful, and rational whole. The morning intentions and evening reviews we have practiced are the heartbeats of this life. They keep the fire of philosophy burning. Without them, the ancient wisdom becomes just words on a page. With them, it becomes a living, breathing force that transforms your every interaction. In these 5 parts, we have walked through the architecture of a soul. You have the tools to build your own atrium. You know how to filter the noise of the world through the dichotomy of control. You know how to guard your peace within the citadel. You know how to use the urgency of death to fuel the love of life. You know how to act with virtue in the marketplace. And now, you know how to strive for the consistency of the sage. The journey of the Stoic is never finished. Every day brings a new challenge, a new impression to be tested, a new opportunity to choose virtue over vice. But you're no longer a passenger in your own life. You are the pilot. You're the architect. You are the guardian of your own soul. Go forth into the world with a steady hand and a quiet heart. Remember that the world will continue to be chaotic, but you can remain still. People will continue to be difficult, but you can remain kind. Life will continue to be uncertain, but your purpose can remain clear. The Stoic atrium is always here within you. Whenever you feel lost, return to the silence. Return to the reason. Return to the simple truth that you have everything you need to be good, right here, right now. To bring this philosophy out of the clouds and into the dirt of daily life, let us apply the entire 5-part Stoic framework to a challenge almost everyone faces: the crisis of career transition. Imagine you have just been unexpectedly laid off, or perhaps you are trapped in a job that feels like a slow erosion of your soul. You are facing the uncertainty of job hunting, the sting of rejection, and the fear of a dwindling bank account. Here is how the Stoic in the atrium navigates this storm. 1. The filter of control, the foundation. When you lose your job, your mind immediately goes to the wild terrain. You obsess over the economy, the hiring manager who didn't call back, or the unfairness of the corporate restructuring. The Stoic stops this bleed. You realize that the hiring manager's decision isn't external. The market isn't external. Spending your energy hating them is like screaming at a thunderstorm. Instead, you pivot to your inner garden. You control your resume. You control how many hours you spend networking. You control the tone of your voice in the interview. You realize that while you cannot command the world to give you a job, you can command yourself to be the most prepared candidate available. 2. Guarding the inner citadel, emotions and adversity. Rejection letters arrive. Each one feels like a personal insult. This is where the Stoic pause becomes your greatest weapon. Before the "I am a failure" judgment takes root, you pause. You describe the event objectively. An email arrived stating they moved forward with another candidate. You strip away the emotional narrative. You realize the rejection is merely information, not a verdict on your soul. By maintaining your citadel, you keep your head clear for the next application. You practice voluntary discomfort by living frugally now, proving to yourself that even if it takes months to find work, you can survive on the basics. This removes the power of fear. 3. Memento mori and amor fati, time and fate. In the middle of the struggle, you look at the clock. It is easy to feel that this period of unemployment is wasted time. Memento mori reminds you that your life is ticking away even now. This isn't a time to wait for life to start again. This is your life. You practice Amor Fati by deciding that this period of transition is exactly what you needed. Perhaps you needed to learn resilience. Perhaps you needed to be forced out of a comfortable but stagnant role. You don't just tolerate the job hunt. You love the challenge of it. You decide that the struggle is the very thing that will make you a more formidable person when you finally land your next role. 4. The cosmopolis, virtue, and others. When you're struggling, it is easy to become self-centered. But the Stoic remembers the cosmopolis. Even while job hunting, you look for ways to be useful. You help a colleague who is also laid off. You share resources. You act with justice by not lying on your resume, even if it would be easier. You act with temperance by not let your anxiety spill over onto your family. You realize that even without a title, you are still a citizen of the world with a duty to be helpful. Your human work continues regardless of your employment status. 5. The smooth flow, the sage, and the circle. Finally, you strive for consistency. You do not let your self-worth rise and fall with the pings of your inbox. You aim for that smooth flow of life, where your peace is anchored in your own effort. You ask, what would the sage do? The sage would wake up early, exercise, do the work of searching, and then spend the evening in peace, knowing they did their best. They would not be a different person on the day of a no than they are on the day of a yes. By aligning your will with the reality of the situation, you find that you are no longer a victim of the job market. You are a pilot navigating a difficult sea. The Stoic result. By the time you find a new position, you have gained something far more valuable than a paycheck. You have built a soul that is consistent like a sphere. You have proven that your happiness is not a hostage to your salary. You have learned that you can lose everything external and still be a person of wisdom, courage, and peace. This is the power of the atrium. It doesn't just make life easier, it makes you better.